Hey everyone, Roxas here. I just finished recording both the best and worst videos of the year list, and I'm just going to throw this video in front of both of them just to say that, once again, these are my personal list of what I consider the best and worst movies of the year. Now, if you don't agree, you have your own opinion about those things, that is fine. Make your own video, alright? So I'm just saying, like, this is my video, this is what I consider the best and worst. Enough, if I missed the movie, that means that I either didn't see it or wasn't good enough to make either of the lists, whether honorable mentions or dishonorable mentions. It probably fell in somewhere sort of the middle form. Or, like I said, I possibly just didn't see it. There has been movies I haven't seen this year, such as Sing and Fences. So some movies will end up on the list, so I apologize if they're not there. But anyway, I try to keep it short this year, but as always, it's so hard to do it, but at least I kept it under 15 minutes. I hope so. But I hope you guys enjoy the video, and catch you guys in the next one. It's that time of year again. Time to go over the best and worst of 2016. Well, as far as the movies go, because if we're just going on what's been happening in the world, then this was possibly one of the worst years ever. But well, with that being said, let's get off to a good start. Now, this time around, I'm not going to be able to show as many clips or basically any clips at all, mostly due to copyright reasons and of course time constraints while doing this video. So this video is probably going to be short. I'm going to try to keep it under 10 minutes. If I go over, I do apologize, but that's what I'm planning to do. Alright, with that being said, let's get started off with the honorable mentions. Now, I always do this list first before I start my top 10. These are movies that I personally, as well with this list, that I personally found interesting, that could have easily made the list if only better movies haven't come out at the time. That doesn't mean these movies should be overlooked or should be dismissed as just, oh well, that's good, but I'm not going to pay attention to it. No, you should possibly still see these at least once. At least that's what I feel that you should do. But of course, do whatever you want. Doesn't matter. As I have my Death Note right here, and I'm just going to read off the honorable mentions really quickly, and then we'll get into the top 10. So, honorable mentions list. Barbershop, The Next Cut. This is actually a film that I didn't expect was going to happen. Then when it came out, I was like, oh, really? Another barbershop movie? But it actually turns out to be pretty good. Definitely talks about the paths of friendship and family a little bit. And, you know, it's a barbershop film, but it's much better than that sequel that we got after the first barbershop movie, which I only thought was the really good one. But this one was pretty good. I was surprised at how well it was done, and yeah, Barbershop. I actually kind of like it. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Now, this opens up the Harry Potter world. I made a review on this, so if you want to know a little bit more about it, you can go check out the review. Just give a quick synopsis of it. It's a good film. There are some weak parts in the film. I go over it more in my review. But basically, it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're interested in knowing more about the expanded Harry Potter universe. And they're going to make more of these movies, so I look forward to seeing more. Kubo and the Two Strings. Now, this was from, I think they're called Laika, who are the same stop-motion animation studio. Probably, I think the only stop-motion animation studio. I'm disappointed once again I didn't do a full-on review for one of their films, considering that I did like Box Trolls last year, as well as Coraline being one of my favorites, and Paranorman as well. These guys are really good at what they do. They put so much work, so much effort into their movies. They get no recognition. They really should. And it's such a shame that it takes so much time to make a film like this nowadays. But stop-motion animation is kind of a dying art. So it's nice to see that one studio is still there to keep it going. I don't know what's keeping them afloat financially, because at the box office, they don't seem to be doing as well as they should, which I'll just leave it at that. Good film, check it out. Storks. This one was a bit of a surprise because I actually didn't think too highly of this when I saw the trailer. It wasn't until it was recommended by a couple of people that I actually decided to check it out and view it. It's funny, man. It's like watching, it's done by Warner Brothers, so it's kind of like watching a Looney Tunes special, but just the long Looney Tunes special. So there's, you know, this slapstick in it, but it's funny. It's funny slapstick, and the movie made me laugh, so I think it works. As a comedy, it made me laugh. Normally comedies nowadays, especially with non-animation is very difficult to make me laugh. I don't know. I don't really care for them that much. Storks, good film. Next one, Suicide Squad. Now, I made a review on this. I think that review went on for, God, it had to go on for 20 minutes or so or over that. I talked about this film for a long time. And I'm going to say it again here. I enjoyed it, man. Second half, yes, is a bit of a mess. It has problems. It starts off on a high note and then it starts to roll down. If you want to know more in depth about it, go check out my review on it. But I did enjoy Suicide Squad. Like I said, it has its problems, such as with the Joker character, but if you wanted to know more detail, check that out. It still was honorable enough, well, good enough for me, that it made my honorable mentions list. Just don't see it in 3D. Well, it's not in theaters anymore. Don't watch it in 3D. It's horrible. Sully. I just saw this movie yesterday, and it actually was a pretty good film. It was very short, which was good. At the same time, I didn't feel like this should have been a theater release. It could have basically just been shown on HBO or something like that, and it would possibly have the same impact. The only reason why I was probably put in theaters is just so that I can probably get an Oscar, but you can definitely see that there's more to the story about Sully Sullenberger, who landed the freaking plane on the Hudson River. I remember when that happened. Fantastic. But his story afterwards is what's interesting. I wish we got a little bit more backstory on, well, his life, which I thought it was going to be, but it's mostly just centers around the plane crash and a little bit what happens after that. That's about it. The Jungle Book. Now, people probably thought this was going to make my list, and my view on The Jungle Book actually changed a little bit towards from making the review on it and then from seeing it again. I still think it's a good film. I don't think it's up there with some of the best. I would say it's possibly the best CGI. Hell, I wish that the people who worked on this did the fucking dinosaurs in Jurassic World. That way they can look like they're actually fucking there. But either way, I go more in depth in my review. I still enjoyed the film. I know a lot of people who are saying it's overrated and whatnot. I didn't really think much of The Jungle Book to begin with. I mean, I loved it as a kid. I liked the animation version, but it's never been that great of a story to me. The books are a lot more intense, and if you really want the Jungle Book story, you still have the books there. So just go read the books. There's no point in complaining about the movie not being like the books a little bit too much. This one was a little darker than the animated version. It's some of the deaths come out of nowhere, but either way, Jungle Book, I enjoyed it. Honorable mentions, it made that list. Trolls, just recently saw this too. It's that type of film that has like a whole bunch of pop songs, not annoying ones though, thank God, but it has like a lot of modern day pop songs and a couple of references to modern day stuff. There's not that much there. It seems to be its own original thing, takes place in its own original world, and it actually made me more interested in the Trolls than it ever has. It was very beautifully animated. Kind of funny at some parts, not a lot, but I do like our main characters there. I do like the villain, and I like the overall story that they went with. It's kind of hard to make a story out of Trolls. It's like making a story out of Angry Birds, and we're gonna get to that in a minute. Well, actually, not on this list. We're gonna get to that on another list, but it does what Angry Birds was trying to do, in my personal opinion. But either way, Trolls, check it out if you like. And the last one is going to be Secret Life of Pets, which is another film that does the same thing as Trolls does. I kind of enjoyed it. I don't think it was a bad film in no way whatsoever. I just think that it was possibly unnecessary, or I expected something a little bit different, but for what I got, it was enjoyable. I do like the characters. While I seem to like the side characters more than I like the main characters, but either way, the overall film I did enjoy. It's a cutesy film. If you want to check it out, for at least show it to your kids or something like that, I can see you doing that and they'll like it fine. And as an adult, it can be an enjoyable film. I would just say maybe rent it and stuff like that, show it to your kids or whatever. Oh, if it comes on HBO or TV or something like that, it'll be fine. It's not going to rot their brain or make them any stupider stupider, if that's even a word, then it probably would. Trolls will probably make you more stupid than this film will, but very safe film. This is standard animation family film. All right, that's it for the honorable mention. So let's get into it. These are the top 10 best movies of 2016. Number 10, Star Trek Beyond. Now, I made a review about this, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but it's basically Star Trek Beyond. It's what you get and what it sounds like. What really interests me is the villain and how he became this person, how he became this villain, and what was his ultimate goal was. I got his story. I understand where he was coming from, and you kind of sympathize with him at the same time, but you also want Captain Kirk to stop him as well. So the film overall, it's a standard Star Trek thing. It doesn't really stand out as much as Into Darkness, but I think Into Darkness, the only reason why it stood out is because it had a cookie cut and copy and paste ending, and that was the only problem with some people. Me, as I think I made a review on Star Trek Into Darkness, I didn't have that much of a problem. Compared to the first one and the second one, it is a better film, and it seems like these movies just keep building up and building up on themselves, and it's actually meeting those standards. It's actually getting better as it goes on, and it's just an overall enjoyable adventure experience. If you love Star Trek, you're gonna love this film. Number 9, Kung Fu Panda 3. Now, if you guys didn't know, I love me some Kung Fu Panda, alright? I love the TV show, I love the movies, I love the toys. I got no Kung Fu Panda toys. But I do enjoy what DreamWorks has done with this world and how they expanded on it as far as having these anthropomorphic creatures. Ever since I saw the first Kung Fu Panda, I was like, you know, this is actually pretty good, and I remember people talking about it a lot at the time, and then once the second one came around, it just kind of fell off, even though there was a TV show tie-in, and nobody really talked about it until then. It wasn't until the third one got a trailer that people started to flock to it again, and they started saying like, oh, you know, Kung Fu Panda, I remember how great this was, at least to them, and I didn't know. I thought I was the only person that still really enjoyed Kung Fu Panda. So I was really, really excited to see a third film. I went to the theater actually by myself. This was a double feature that day. I went to see Kung Fu Panda 3 and Deadpool. I think I talked about this in my review, which I go more in depth on. But basically Kung Fu Panda 3 keeps the adventures of Po going. You even have Bryan Cranston, who plays his father, and then all, of course, the original voice actors, such as David Cross and them. Seth Rogen come back to voice their respective characters, and it's an enjoyable experience, man. I love every bit of it. It was fantastic. The only problem I had possibly with it was the villain, and it's not that he was weak, it's just that he wasn't as interesting. Like how I said, the villain for Star Trek Beyond, who was played by Idris Elba, was much more interesting than J.K. Simmons' character here. But that's just my personal opinion. Yeah, but either way, Kung Fu Panda 3, third one in the trilogy, one of the best. Loved it, man. Loved it. Still, the second one is possibly better. I'm just going to say that. The second one had a much better villain. Just going to say that. Much better villain, much better story. Check out Kung Fu Panda 2 and then watch 3. Or just watch all of them. They're fantastic. Number 8. 10 Cloverfield Lane. Oh man, what can I say about this? Now, there's been some backlash for this film as far as what people officially thought it was going to be. People thought that it was its own thing, like sort of like, I see it as an anthology film, not necessarily being a sequel to the first Cloverfield movie, but being more of taking place in the same universe, you know, kind of like how Rogue One, a Star Wars story, was. And that's possibly the best way to put it. And if you put that into your mind going in, that this is part of an anthology series, that these are different stories that are taking place in the same Cloverfield alien invasion universe, you'll have a much better time with this film. Because if you just think it's just a standard alien invasion bullshit, which I did not want to see, I'm so glad that they actually, of course that comes into play later on in the film, but for the majority of the film, they do mix it up by having these just three characters just living through what's been going on the surface, and there's a mystery behind what's been going on. But of course, if you've seen the original Cloverfield movie, you know exactly what's going on. But either way, I've been into debate with people about whether, you know, they thought this was a good film or not. I thought it was a great film, but I didn't see it as much of a sequel to the first one, although I didn't think highly of the first Cloverfield. I'm just going to say that. I just thought the first Cloverfield was an okay thriller type movie. It wasn't anything special, at least not to me. The only thing I remember about the first Cloverfield is the ending where the monster eats the camera, and spoiler alert, that came out in 2006, you should know by now, it's been 10 years. And the subway scene where they had like those little monster things that look like they're from that video game Resistance. It was, besides that, there's not much I remember about the first Cloverfield. I can't remember anyone's names. But definitely, this one was, in my opinion, a much better film. And if anything, you should definitely check this one out. And you can check it out without seeing the first one. It's definitely a standalone film that's much more enjoyable, in my opinion, and very well put together for what it was and where it's taking place at. Because it's literally taking place in one area, and it doesn't expand until like later on in the film. But by the time that happens, the movie's over. But either way, definitely thumbs up, man. Love the film. Love it. We'll watch it again. Number 7, Doctor Strange. Okay, so I'm just going to run through pretty much the rest of these freaking movies because a lot of them I've already did a review on, so I'm not really going to go into too much detail. Doctor Strange is one of the newer additions to the Marvel Universe. He's actually played by Benedict Cumberbatch. There's also some other few actors into it. Like I said, I go more in depth in my review, but basically put, it's a good film. It continues on, expanding onto the Marvel Universe, even opening up some more possibilities. And from what I've heard, Doctor Strange is going to be part of the Infinity Wars, or he's also going to appear as a cameo in the Thor movie. So, yeah, this is just continuing the line of Marvel's films, which are just doing absolutely fantastic, both visually and storytelling. It's funny. The CG is done really well. You are actually convinced that these people are there. You're convinced that they're actually doing these magical things. And Doctor Strange just keeps that flow going. It's not the best Marvel film, but I definitely would put it up there more than I would Ant-Man. I still think Ant-Man is possibly the weakest in terms of the new Marvel Cinematic Universe. Even though this film doesn't reach the heights of, let's say, like Captain America Civil War, for example, it's still up there in terms of its protagonist and the story that it's trying to get across. So Doctor Strange, I enjoyed it, and you should definitely check it out if you haven't already. Number 6, Finding Dory. Now, I know what you're probably saying, why is this movie so high on the list? This movie is only this high because when I went to go see this movie for the first time, I didn't think much of it. It is, I will say what other people have said, it is an unnecessary sequel, but god damn if it isn't funny. I never laughed this hard at a comedy all this year until I saw Finding Dory, and I was like, ha! The only one that came close to that was possibly Zootopia, and of course I saw Moana later on this year and some other comedy movies, but definitely as far as the animation goes, it's beautifully done. Pixar did not sleep on this at all, especially being this one being a sequel. But Pixar normally does pretty well with their sequels. It's sort of the Walt Disney Animation Studios, which we really have to look out for. But either way, Finding Dory, I made a review on this. If you want me to go more in depth, check that out as well. Good film. Good film. Definitely funny. Definitely enjoyable. Unnecessary, but worth seeing. Love it. Like, somebody in my house is clapping. I don't know what they're looking at. Number 5, Captain America Civil War. I said this in my Doctor Strange talk just a moment ago, and Captain America Civil War does basically the same thing that Doctor Strange does. It finally brings all these, but more so in terms of it bringing all these superheroes together, introducing us to a new Spider-Man, to a Black Panther character who, I'm saying character as if I don't know who Black Panther is. I know who Black Panther is, and he's played by a very respectable actor, Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick Boswick, is that Bossman? Bossman? I think it's Bossman. Anyway, so this is another film that I made a review on. I go more in depth there. But basically put, it expands on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, bringing in more characters who obviously are going to get their own standalone films, and I would just love to see them do that. It does answer an age-old question, which I did have, because I don't read a lot of the comic books, okay, at least not anymore. So I was glad to see this film actually address certain things that people who are just plain moviegoers could understand and enjoy. So I'm glad this film came out, and I'm glad I watched it at the same time. Yeah, Captain America Civil War, and I'm going to really go into more on that because pretty much everyone already saw it. Go check it out. It's great. Number 4, Deadpool. Oh, man. Remember how I was just talking about with Finding Dory that one of the funniest comedies I've seen this year? Well, Deadpool was the other funniest comedy I've seen this year. I haven't laughed so hard at comedic timing, which is so perfect, as I have done since Deadpool. It's just been a fantastic year as far as comedies go, as far as making me laugh. Normally I'm very hard on comedies, you'll never see them on this list, but thank God for these amazing writers which are coming up nowadays, because they are just getting, they managed to get out both action and jokes at the same time. This movie is actually so good that you would think that Disney's, Marvel side was a part of it, and this was actually released by 20th Century Fox, I think. So the same people who do the X-Men movie. So this was very nice to see. I am so glad they made a Deadpool movie, and they wasn't afraid to shine away from an R. Fantastic. So glad they did that. With this Deadpool, I can honestly say that I would love to see him pop up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hell, if they can get if Sony and Disney can make a deal to get Spider-Man into it, they really have to make Deadpool get into it. At least some sort of cameo later on, something. You still have the actors here. They're still willing to do this. Fuck it. Throw him in there and get him to make some jokes while fighting Thanos or something. That would be absolutely fantastic. So for any nerd who's a big fan of this type of stuff, Deadpool is fantastic to see. Hell, even if you're new to it, it's still great to see. My mother actually wanted to see it, and she knew nothing about Deadpool, and she enjoyed the hell out of it. It's a funny movie, fantastic, kind of disgusting at some points, but it does the disgusting stuff right. And I basically, I go more in depth in my review, but that's basically my way of summoning up. Deadpool does the disgusting stuff right. It's an enjoyable film, and you should go check it out if you haven't already. Number 3, Rogue One. Alright, so I recently made a review on this, late 2015. Star Wars Rogue One has done very well at the box office, which is no surprise. But this is the start of the sort of anthology series, which I think they're doing a couple of more films after this. We don't know if it's going to be a Han Solo, Boba Fett movie, Yoda movie. There's just been so much speculation going around, but from what has been done with the casting call, it seems like this is going to be a Han Solo movie, which is going to come out after Episode 8. And then, of course, we're going to have Episode 9, and then we're probably going to have another anthology movie. So I don't know what's that going to be. But as far as continuing on to the Star Wars lore and adding on to it, this film does it well. I did have a couple of complaints with it, which I'm not going to go over here because I'm kind of sick of talking and I want to get this list over with. I actually have some other stuff I would like to do. But basically, in my review on it, which you can go check out, it's right on my channel, I go way more in depth than I do here. Star Wars Rogue One, good film. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on to the next one. Number 2, Moana. Next is Zootopia. This was actually the other Disney film that I really wanted to see this year. Having Disney release 2 films every other year seems to be an interesting choice, rather than just releasing one year back to back, as they did with the start of Princess and the Frog and then Tangled, and so on, so on, so on. So I know the next film that we get is Wreck-It Ralph. They're making a sequel to Wreck-It Ralph, which is supposed to be released in 2018. So excited for that. But Moana, I did make a review on this. Like I said, not going to go into any more depth than this. Fantastic animation, songs which will probably get into your head just as much as the songs did in Frozen, but they're really well done and they're sung very well by the lead cast. It's an enjoyable standard film with a nice lesson about believing in yourself. Yet everything here is pretty standard. It doesn't really stand out as much. You kind of suspect exactly where it's going. There's even a certain part in the film where the two main characters get into an argument and it just feels like it comes out of nowhere, a little bit pointless, but of course they have to have that third act breakup scene and it's just like, why is this even here? But even with that, the film still does manage to pull off a very enjoyable experience. And yeah, going to see it in the theater, I was really into it. I was getting really into these songs. I love this animation. Oh my god, the way they animated the water in this film, it looks so real and beautiful. I can't even describe it. Seeing it on the big screen was so amazing. It seems like it was some sort of, I forgot the term that I'm looking for. It's, oh man, it's like photorealistic. It seemed it was photorealistic, like it was a picture or it was an actual place that was there. And these characters were just animated in this place. That's how beautiful the environment looked in this film. And there's a lot of water in it, so thank God they worked on it as much as they did. But yeah, that's Moana. I go more in depth in my review, and so I'm just going to leave it there. Moving on to the last one. Number 1, Zootopia. You guys knew it was coming. You knew it was going to be my number 1. Zootopia is my number 1 favorite film this year. And it has fantastic animation. Great characters all around, from main characters to side characters. It has a fantastic message to teach both kids and fucking adults that really need to realize that there are more people in this world than just them or their race or the stereotypes that are inflicted on people. It definitely gets very deep to the point where the movie just wants to come out and just blatantly say it, but they do it subtly, and then of course they do come to a more realization about what this is about towards the end of the film. But by then you kind of guess what's going on, and it's a lovable romp of a movie. I loved every minute of it, from, like I said, from its music to its visuals, to its writing, to its comedy, to the characters' personalities, which are all different and all unique. The voice acting, even though done by celebrities, doesn't come off as half-assed, which I forgot to say that for about Moana as well, with Dwayne Johnson there. It doesn't come off as half-assed. It seems like these guys are trying and they are enjoying the film that they're in. They are enjoying this experience, and as well as they should. Zootopia is a fantastic story to get across, and I don't know. It's like a film that I want everybody to see. I said this the same thing with Birdman, with The Imitation Game. Movies I have put on these lists before, which this is my 3rd list for the 3rd year. It's just worth seeing, man. If you haven't seen it already, you gotta at least check it out. But I'm so glad the film actually did well at the box office and it's well received, and it seems like everybody likes it. I am so glad that it's done well. But don't forget the message that it was trying to get across. It's a very important one about tolerance and loving your fellow man and just giving respect to people, and especially in a world right now which is just so devastated with violence and prejudice. It's nice to have a film that's done by a company, a very well-respected company, come out and say, hey man, you know, peace. But you guys know what I mean. It's definitely a story that needs to be told even 100 times over, because regardless of the time that we're in, there's always going to be some sort of racism or prejudice, and I doubt it's going to leave anytime soon. But at least it can try to be snuffed out. At least we can try to accept each other for who we are and just move on. Just move on. Well, guys, that's it. That's my top 10 best movies of 2016. I hope you enjoyed the video. This was a long one. It went on for longer. Much longer than what I wanted it to be. I'm actually kind of tired of talking. Where's my water? I'm just gonna have to take a sip here because my throat is dry as fuck. I've been talking nonstop. Alright, so the next video is going to be the top 10 worst movies in 2016, which also seems to be my more popular video. I don't know why. People like to watch me talk about the worst movies, but then at the same time, they hate me talking about it. It's so fucking weird. But either way, I'm going to do that, and then after that, we'll see what 2017 holds, because I might have an announcement coming up, but we'll see how that goes. Alright, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.